We're going to be talking about, all of the foreign aid situations, like I said, in the country and all of that. And one of the things is like, how they're having budget cuts. And the other things also that we'll be discussing is how health staff in plea for better protection. That's right. We're going to talk about all these things. But right now, the UK is open-minded on extending furloughs, is what Michael Gove is saying. So yeah, the UK government is open-minded on the SNP's calls to extend furloughs. The Cabinet Office Minister Michael Gove has said this. And yeah, the Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon wants the job support scheme extended for as long as it is required. And yeah, the call came after and ahead of a virtual meeting between Boris Johnson and the three devolved administrations on how to emerge from the COVID pandemic. And the summit was postponed though after the Scottish and Welsh First Ministers criticized the very rough agenda. So Mr. Sturgeon actually and Mark Drakeford said the discussion needed to be meaningful, it needed to be very important, and it needed to leave a sort of impression, and had asked Mr. Johnson to provide more details of the meeting schedule. And Mr. Johnson, he called the summit in the wake of this whole election results in Great Britain earlier this month, and which saw, Nicola Sturgeon, the Scottish First Minister's National Party, return to the government in Scotland, and Mr. Drakeford's Labour triumphed in Wales. So yeah, Downing Street was saying all this, and they were having this meeting, which was scheduled to begin at around 1:30, I guess. And yeah, this was this whole opportunity where they were trying to share information between each other and all of that. And the First Minister, Ms. Sturgeon, said that the four-nation meeting could not be a PR exercise. So these are things that we're addressing right now, the situations that is going on in the nation. And one of the reasons why we need to make sure that we follow through. And yeah, this is just, straight up attempt to tell Boris Johnson, like, there's no beating around the bush. This is what we want to talk about. And that, their certainty over funding, is bare minimum of what we are expecting at the moment. So ahead of the summit, the SNP urged the UK government to consider extending furlough beyond September if this is required. So the party also said, they've started jobs way back in March 2021 and should be able to be furloughed if needed. So the furlough scheme, officially called the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme, was launched back in March 2020. And all at the start of the pandemic, it was to minimize the amounts of people losing their jobs. So this is just another thing, to avoid the increase of unemployment rates in the country. So yeah, it now covers up to 80% of an employee's salary for hours they cannot work, up to a maximum of £2,500 per month. So yeah, the scheme is currently due to expire at the end of September. And yeah, Mr. Gove said that he was open-minded on the SNP's proposals, and he added that furlough schemes was a huge success that was not only possible thanks to the broad shoulders of the UK Treasury. He also said Scotland would benefit from more spending by the UK government, adding it is absolutely vital that we build back better. And in an earlier statement, Mr. Gove also said the four nations' joint success on fighting the COVID has shown the world that we can achieve to what we can achieve together, as the United Kingdom. And like I said, he went on to further say that we must take the same approach to the difficult challenge of rebuilding our economy and public services from damaging impact of the COVID-19. So Mr. Gove also, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak and the Secretaries of State for Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales are also expected to attend this particular meeting. Yeah, that's right. And this is, just some things that they were doing, and it's, required right now. And yeah, with all these things going on, it's crazy on what is happening. And in case you guys are, missing are not really up to date with what happened. Well, back on Tuesday, the UK announced 0 COVID deaths for the first time since the pandemic began, with the government advisor saying the latest COVID data that looks very encouraging. So yeah, the timetable for relaxing the COVID measures varies currently in the UK. So in Northern Ireland, ministers are actually introducing major relaxations of the COVID restrictions, with indoor hospitality and tourist accommodations and non-essential retail all allowed to reopen with mitigations in place. So yeah, the next review is due on the 10th of June. So yeah, there's currently a debate going on in England as to whether restrictions should be ended on the 21st of June. So in Wales, the health minister has said the easing of restrictions due to be reviewed on Thursday, and that's what they wanted to do, could be affected by a very serious cluster of the Delta variant in the Conway County. So yeah, these are just some of the things that they were discussing in the government right now, and how the issues at hand have been at a rise, especially when it comes to furlough as well, furlough scheme. These are just some of the things, like I said, are being discussed all around within the officials in the UK are discussing all of these things. So right now, also the other thing that's going on, in case you guys are wondering, the UK has finally approved Pfizer jabs for 12 to 15 years old of age. So if you are a 15-year-old or you're a 12-year-old, as long as, I'm not talking about the guys and the girls who are, who feel young at heart. I'm talking about the actual age. Well, you can get vaccines. So if you have children who are between the ages of 12 to 15 years old, well, they're finally allowed, and it's approved by the UK government to have them jabbed by the Pfizer vaccine. So the UK regulator has approved the use of this vaccine in children between the ages of 12 and 15, saying it is safe and effective in this age group, and the benefits definitely outweigh any kind of risk. So the MHRA said it carried out a very rigorous review of the vaccine in adolescents, and the UK's vaccine committee will now decide whether children should get the jab. And yet, the Pfizer vaccine is already approved for use in people aged 16 and over. So Dr. June Ray, the chief executive of the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, or the MHRA, said the safety of the vaccine in 15 to 12-year-olds would be carefully monitored. And she went on to further say that no extension to an authorization would be approved unless the expected standards of safety, quality, and effectiveness have been met. So if this has been met, well, then this is something that we can actually go on with, because like I said, there have been risks and there's been concerns with the AstraZeneca vaccine. It's all the more reason why a lot of people didn't want to even take it, and it's understandable. Like I said, we don't want to endanger our children, especially children, or any of the youth as well, when it comes to taking vaccines, because that will just crush the confidence in the vaccine, and people will not be more open to taking it. They'll be more hesitant, and this is something that we want to avoid and prevent at all costs. So the Joint Committee on Vaccinations and Immunization, the JCVI, must now advise governments on whether this age group should be vaccinated as part of the UK rollout. Well, a spokesperson for the Department of the Health and Social Care said it would be guided by the expert advisors and will update in due course. So they said, okay, this is what the thing is. Right now, we are in talks about this, and we will come to an agreement and to a point where, we will actually consider something like this. And at present, though, there is no routine vaccination of under 18s against COVID in the UK. However, current advice is that the 16 to 18-year-olds who are in a priority group or who live in the same house as someone who is extremely vulnerable should be offered a COVID vaccine. So in case you have family members who are more susceptible to the virus, or who are more immune vulnerable, rather. So it is advised for these people who have children between the age of 16 to 18 to get their vaccination. So yeah, if they get vaccinated, just all the more safer measures. These are all the more measures, that can make sure that people will stay safe. So yeah, there's been complex issues of vaccinating children in general. Children's risks of becoming ill with the COVID-19 is extremely low. So it's really, really low, to the point, where it's negligible, and they are very rarely needed. Any kind of hospital treatment is even required for them, which is why the focus has been on vaccinating adults who are more at risk. But the question of whether to protect children now is gathering a lot of pace. So it's being discussed and being thought about. So the EU recently approved the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine for 12 to 15-year-olds, and the US and Canada started vaccinating children in this age group earlier this month. So yeah, Germany has indicated it will start vaccinating children over 12 from the 7th of June. So these are just, the things that they are doing right now. They're realizing rather that it is important that we get these children on board as well, and make sure they get vaccinated, all for the more safety, increasing the safety, especially, we're trying to reduce the risks of spreading or transmitting any kind or form of the vaccine, because this is something that we are trying to prevent. And to do that, sometimes children are more susceptible to it, not in a way for them getting sick, but rather in the way for them being carriers. So we are trying to prevent this, and the government actually is also, making sure that they start these kind of initiatives, and it's finally gaining traction, it's gained approval. and they say, okay, between the ages of 12 to 15, well, they are approved to get the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. And Professor Adam Finn, a member of the JCVI, said there was lots of complex issues to consider in the UK, including the potential disruption to children's education if cases continue to rise in unvaccinated school children. So he went on to say, the immediate question was what to do with the vaccines we have got. And if we give them to 12 to 15-year-olds, then we are not giving to other adults who may be more at risk. So Professor Finn said Israel had managed to keep low cases by vaccinating their entire adult population, meaning they did not need to vaccinate their children. So when you talk about resourcefulness, you have to realize that even if we get the children vaccinated, why the question is, how effective is it? What is the effectiveness, and how much can we gain from getting children vaccinated? Why not get all of these adults vaccinated? Why? Okay, you approve for children to get vaccinated, but instead of doing that, instead of getting children vaccinated, why, since the risk is lower with children, why not get all of the adult population vaccinated? That is the question they're trying to say, and they're trying to portray. This is what Professor Finn tried to point out, but the directors of public health in Blackburn with Darwin has called for 12 to 18-year-olds to be vaccinated as quickly as possible to help shut down the transmission of the variant first identified in India and currently known as the Delta variant. And the Delta variant was named by the World Health Organization, in case you guys have missed out on that. Well, so it's not the Indian variant anymore, but the Delta variant. So Professor Russell Viner, the professor of adolescent health at the University College of London, said decisions about vaccinating all teenagers should be also taken, the potential side effects into account. So we have to also consider the fact of the risks of, getting them vaccinated. And he went on to say that the early reports about myocarditis or inflammation of the heart muscle in young men need to be properly investigated and may not be related to the Pfizer vaccine. However, they provide a warning that we should not rush into these decisions. And these are, things that they want to address and they want to point out. And, when it comes to safety and ethics, well, alongside the regulator, a UK independent advisory group also analyzed data on the quality, the effectiveness, and the safety of the vaccine in adolescents against any potential risks of side effects. So the Commission on Human Medicines concluded, that its benefit outweighed any sort of risk. And they're saying, okay, we can get our individuals involved. We can get these children who are between the ages of 12 to 15 vaccinated. And, we don't have to really fear as much of a side effect because we've done our research. We checked it out and it's come through and it shows, okay, the pros definitely outweigh the cons. And the data is based on more than 2,000 children aged between the ages of 12 to 15-year-olds who took part in the U.S. trials of the Pfizer vaccine. So there were no cases of COVID from a week after the second dose compared to 16 cases in the placebo group. And that's interesting right there. And it's a very interesting thing to see that the placebo group got more cases of the vaccine in comparison to the others who did get their first dose. And the vaccine appeared to work as well in adolescents as young adults aged between the ages of 16 to 25. And the vaccine side effects were usually mild or moderate, including and not not exempted, but rather tiredness. There was fatigue involved. There was headaches, there was muscle and joint pain, and improved, all of these things improved though within a couple of days. So they did initially have these kind of small side effects, mild side effects, but all of this usually resolved itself within a couple of days' time. So the safety data from all these hundreds of thousands of adolescents in the U.S. who have had the vaccine will soon be available. But some argue there are ethical issues over vaccinating children that have to be considered too. And there's also issues with regards to that. And they went on to say that we urgently need to increase the supply of vaccine to vulnerable people at high risk in countries with the greatest need. This is what Professor Dominic Wilkinson, the consultant pediatrician and professor of medical ethics at the University of Oxford, said. And he went on to say that it is unethical to give vaccines to people at very low risks in our country when there are other individuals overseas at a much higher risk who are actually dying. And they're saying is, why waste, in a way, to cut it short, to keep it short and in layman's terms, why not give it to those who require it? Why waste it on children when they have a very high immune system in comparison to many adults? Right now, many adults require it. Okay, maybe your population doesn't require it. Then make sure you roll out the vaccines into these other countries that are at higher risks, like India right now, and even Portugal, because they are also at risk. You can see that the rates are crazy. In Egypt, we got Congo, we got Sudan, Sri Lanka. These countries, these are just a bunch of countries to name. These are the countries that are in the UK's red list. So why not consider these countries? Why not make sure that they get vaccinated? Why not roll out the vaccines to these countries? And in case, these are just some of the important things that that they have to do. Why is the government trying to waste vaccines when it comes to this? It's unethical, is what they're saying. Is what Professor Dominic Wilkinson is also saying, that it's very unethical when other people require it, when the need for the vaccine is more higher and greater in countries who are at higher risks in comparison to our countries, our advanced countries. And with that though, if you have any thoughts or opinions on the matter, well, feel free to let me know. Hit me up. The numbers to do so are 07852-473-473. Those are the magical numbers. You can always hit us up on those numbers. And make sure to follow us also on our Instagram. We go on Twitter as well. We're pretty big on Facebook and YouTube. So check us out on our social media platforms, and get in touch with us. Like I said, you can call us up, and also you can listen to us 24/7, 365. All you got to do is simple: download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And with that being said, though, we're going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back. Definitely will be right back after this. Welcome back to Relax Radio with me, Nick, keeping you guys company and talking about all the things that is going on in the UK, and all these things that is happening also across the world. There's a lot of discussion going on with how the UK is handling their trade deals. Yeah, with one of the most controversial things is right now the biggest issue. In case you guys have not been watching the news lately, is the issue of concern. It's with Australia. Right now, we're having trade deal with Australia, and a lot of these farmers are not quite on board with this. And this is just, another reason why they are super, super upset about it. I mean, this right now, it doesn't look too bright when it comes to the situation and when it comes to the whole trade deal situation. So the UK has also announced trade deals with Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. So yeah, this is another set of countries that it's starting to broaden its horizons to. So the UK has signed a post-Brexit trade deal with Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein, the government has announced. And the agreement will be a major boost for trades between the four non-EU nations, which is already worth 21.6 billion pounds. So yeah, that's what UK Minister Liz Truss had to say. And she claimed it would boost sectors such as digital and cut tariffs on UK farm products such as cheese and meat. So yeah, these are just some of the things that the trade deal has to offer. And yeah, in case you are wondering who is this and who am I talking about all these things, well, I'm Nick, and I'm keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. You can always feel free to come this way and talk about all these things about how the UK is going with their trade deals. And if you think this is going to be a disaster, well, hit me up. Let me know. The numbers are 07852 473 473. It could be anything. It could be the path to a Nobel Prize. Well, you can always hit me up and let me know. And also, don't forget, check us out on our social media pages. We're pretty big on Facebook and Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Subscribe, like, and follow. And with that being said, getting back to the topic at hand right now is, like I said, the situation with the UK right now after the whole Brexit situation, post-Brexit. We're doing a lot of these trade deals, and Liz Truss is also, is commandeering all of this. And she said that it would boost a lot of these sectors and, the possibility of tariffs being cut between these particular countries, and it will help with our agriculture as well. So Britain is Norway's top trading deals. And this country is rather one of the top traders outside of the European Union. So the UK government said it reduced import tariffs on shrimps, prawns, haddocks, would-be cut costs for the UK fish processing, helping to support a lot of jobs in Scotland, in East Yorkshire, and Northern Lincolnshire. So yeah, this trade deal is essentially a win-win situation for the UK. So what's going to happen right now is, if we do these trade deals with Norway, what is going to do? It's going to open up avenues, and we will cut down on the tariffs placed on these fisheries. So yeah, these are just important deals, and these are just some of the benefits of the trade deal. So as Britain is no longer a part of the European common fisheries policy, it must deal directly with Norway. And UK fleets are keen to have access to the country's sub-Arctic seas. However, many Norwegian farmers have expressed concern at opening up the domestic market to British beef and cheese. And they went on to say, they all went to say that the country's market of 5.4 million people is small, but potentially lucrative with strong purchasing power. And the countries involved are the three non-EU members of the European Economic Area, which allows them to be part of this EU single market. And Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg said the deal allows for growth in trade for both our countries as well. So, however, Norwegian government said the deal with the UK would not restore all the advantages it had when both countries were in the EEA. So yeah, in terms of this whole overall trade volumes, well, this deal is more significant for Norway and Iceland than it is for UK. So right now, the UK can only benefit from it, but politically, it's really important though. We're building ties with these countries is the point. If you think about it, yeah, we might not stand to gain a lot from these policies or these trade deals, but what we have to do is we're opening up our borders, we're opening up our avenues, and we are forming relations, building up relations between these countries, and for future trading, for future trade deals. This is just one of the reasons why we're doing this. So like I said, it's very important for post-Brexit British government to show that new trade deals are being done quickly, even if as the Norwegian side points out, it is less open than the previous relationship inside the same single market. So yeah, the new deal builds on the rollover agreement that the UK signed before it left the EU's economic zone. And the government is keen to stress it includes important elements on digital trade, which go beyond what the EU even has. So this is just some of the things, that they want to point out on, and they say, okay, these are the opportunities that is going to open up the doors for UK. And yeah, when it comes to with regards to this, all of this, the new building deals, like I said, all of these are rollover agreements for the UK. And digital and data provisions are relatively new elements in the free trade deal agreements, and it's still unclear how effective they are in the long term. So they went on to say, the trade expert David Hennig from the European Center for International Political Economy said, at first sight, the deal looks cautiously ambitious. And in many fields, from climate change to SMEs, or in other words, small businesses, to digital, it sets out some goal, and without it being obvious that the underlying provisions will deliver to them. So it's a decent start, is what they're saying. But it's the implementation rather that counts. It's doing this that matters. It's doing this. If we do this, if we build relationships with these countries, it will open up doors in the future where we can, sign. You never know when it comes to trade dealing, what we can gain and benefit from these countries, especially. So a free trade deal will not provide similar access to the British market, though. So they're saying, it's a decent start, and that prior to the UK's exit from EU, Norway enjoyed free movement of goods, services, capital, and persons to the UK through the EEA agreement. This is what Norway said. And a free trade agreement will not provide similar access to the British market. But the UK's International Trade Secretary, Liz Truss, said the deal would be a major boost for our trade with Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein, and growing an economic relationship already worth £21.6 billion. So this is going to support a lot of jobs, and it's going to prosper a lot of the countries in the UK as well. The four nations in the UK are going to prosper, and they're going to take home and reap in a lot of the benefits as well. So Iceland's Foreign Minister, Gullar Thordarson, said an agreement with the UK had been a priority for his country and would be crucial for both Icelandic companies and consumers. So this is also, like I said, end of the day, it's all about building relationships between these countries. The whole point of the trade deal that we are having right now with Australia, although, yeah, it might look, at first glance, it might look like we are harming our economy, we're harming our industries, the agricultural industries back home, but we got to realize, just because it looks like that at first sight, the UK right now, the government is looking at the long term of things, and long term is the benefits that we can gain as we move forward in the next couple of years, maybe the next decade. How much more can we gain with, by building up relationships with these countries? So these are the important things, that they want to stress on, and the government is doing their utmost best right now to focus on and building relationships. In my opinion, building relations with any of the countries other than the EU right now, it just goes to show that it's a power move on Britain as well. It's a power move on the UK, to be able to do something like this. And yeah, it's very important with the whole, like I said, with the whole Brexit situation. It was a big problem. We didn't have this, and we had X, Y, and Z problems. And now that we did leave the EU, we have more open relationships. And there's also been talks with entering the Indo-Pacific group as well, which ties in with Japan, with South Korea, with Australia. These are just a bunch of the countries that will be involved in this. So let's see, how it goes. Hopefully this is something that, that we can pull through and move forward with, because this is very important dealing. These dealings will decide, not now, but in the next couple of years, how we can move forward as a country and what our gains will, be when it comes to that point. So these are just, some of the things that is being addressed. Hopefully the country can think about this as as we move forward in the next couple of years. And yeah, these are just some of the things that like I said, that is going on right now in the UK when it comes to trade deal agreements and all of that jazz that is happening. And yeah, other issues also in the UK at the moment, though, is that some Portugal passengers still plan to travel despite the rule changes. Yeah, this is something that I want to call out on, because it's very irresponsible. I mean, it depends, like I said, it depends on the reason why you're traveling there. There could be a reason why you're going there. There could be a family reason why you're traveling there. But to go there just because you're not feeling it today, or you just need a change of scenery, like I stressed yesterday as well with Kevin, when we talk about this, we have to realize that we have to. I mean, the UK is a very big country. We should at least at this moment be considerate about it. Try to stay home. Try to keep it local. Support businesses in the country is my opinion, but not go outside right now at this point anyway, where we're struggling, where we're at our wits ends. So this is just something that a lot of people have to consider about with consideration to something like this. So going on with the whole Portugal issue, half of the passengers booked to travel to Portugal this month, with two are actually going ahead with their trips despite the country being moved to the amber list. So Chu said it was not scheduling any extra flights to bring holiday makers home ahead of the change on Tuesday. So this is just some of the things that they are talking about. And the travel firm currently has about 8,000 UK visitors in Portugal, although it will fall to 2,000 after Sunday as many return at the end of this half term. So like I said, a lot of these airlines are putting on the extra flights, and holiday makers are actually scrambling for flights home from Portugal before the new rules come in, are facing, and they're facing these expensive, ludicrous amounts of tickets that cost really a big amount of money. So, right now that's the situation, for people who were in Portugal and are coming back. And these are all just said, according to media, all these things that is going on. It's crazy. There's going to be flights coming back from these countries. So it's going to be a very difficult flight as well, because you got to remember, just right now, the UK is moving Portugal from the green list to the amber list. So if you're coming back from these countries, you will most probably be asked to quarantine and isolate for at least a number of days in these hotels. So this is just something, that is going on. So more than 1,000 seats, like I said, have been going on between from Portugal to the UK on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. There's been an additional number of seats. People want to come back home now. They're running back home because the problem is not as easy as we thought. And there's the low-cost airline Jet2 has delayed the planned restart of its flights and holidays from the 21st of June to 1st of July, following the government's changes to travel and lists announced on Thursday. So because Turkey was left on the red list, it said it would wait until the 22nd of July before restarting flights and holidays there. And they went on to say, the company went on to say, Steve Heapy, the chief executive officer of that, went on to say that we know that there is an enormous pent-up demand for our flights and package holidays, and our customers want nothing more than to get away on their much needed holidays. But I gotta argue with that. Like I said, is it worth the risk? Do we really need to do this right now? Why can't we do it on some other day? Why can't we do it whenever the situation dies down? Or we get everyone's vaccinated in the country, and there's no risk of traveling between these countries. We can openly travel freely between these countries. And like I said, the UK is a huge country. We have beautiful places right here. Why not keep it local for the meantime until the situation dies down? You need to change your scenery. Well, you can always go to Scotland. You need another change of scenery. You want to see hills or whatever, go to Ireland. That's how it works. You go to different places because you want to change your pace. I understand that. But going out to countries like Portugal, out of the UK rather, I'd like to say, should be out of the question at the moment, even if they are on the green list, because you never know when you might be carrying something. And it's the best to keep it in the country for now, at least. And you're helping the little man grow as well in the country, the other people as well, these small businesses. There could be a small coffee shop you could support. I'm telling you, support, rather keep the cash flow for now, at least indoor, and keep it in the country, keep it local as much as possible. So, we can help the people who really need it. And a lot of these businesses are suffering. There are holidays, there are hotels in the UK that are struggling. Why not help them as well? So these are just, some things that I just wanted to get out there. And in case you guys think otherwise, though, let me know. Hit me up. Those numbers, 07852-473-473. With that, we're going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to Relax Radio, Relaks, without the X, because we believe in positivity. And yeah, my name is Nick, and I'm keeping you company only here on Real Talk, where we try to keep it real as much as possible, 100% all the time. And hey, if you have an education shout out, you know the numbers, you can always hit me up on them. It is 07852473473. Those are the magical numbers. That's right. You can always feel free to hit me up on those. And yeah, talking about all things that is going on in the UK, especially. There has been a lot of these things, that is going on. And right now, like I said, when it comes to global warming and all that, right now the world is at the risk of hitting these temperature limits very, very soon. Yeah, we're getting close to the key right now. Right now, the temperatures are rising, and it is not looking too good. We should take action as soon as possible. And yeah, these are what a lot of these governments and countries are planning to do. Let's see, how it goes. And yeah, with that topic though, we are going to be talking about climate change right now. And yeah, like I said, it's becoming more likely that key global temperature limits will be reached in one or the next 5 years. So a major study says by 2025, there's a 40% chance of at least 1 year being 1.5 degrees hotter than the pre-industrial level. And yeah, this is very important as well. When you think about it, right now, before 1.5 degrees hotter than the pre-industrial level. That's a lot. So that's the lower of two temperature limits set by the Paris Agreement on climate change. So yeah, the conclusion comes in a report published by the World Meteorological Organization, or the WMO. So yeah, the analysis is based on modeling by the UK Met Office and the climate researchers in 10 countries, including China and the US. So yeah, these are just some of the countries that do contribute to global warming. So yeah, in the last decade, it was estimated that the chance of any 1 year reaching the 1.5 degree threshold was only 20%. And Leon Hermanson, a senior Met Office scientist, said that comparing projected temperatures with those of 1850 and 1900s show a clear rise. Because when you consider those particular years, when it comes to those years, especially when you look at it from a graph, it shows that it's uprise. The uprise is really sharp increase of the global change warmth when it comes to global warming as well. Because when you think about it, the industrial level changes. Like right now, technology has come to the point where we will require more energy, more things, more production, and we have to meet this. When production involves consumers, the more person demands a certain product, well, we have to produce it. For the production, we're gonna need energy, and for energy, we are gonna be emitting a lot of carbon dioxide in the air, and that is also with relations to greenhouse gases and all of that. So it just goes to show right now, the researchers have pointed that even if one of the next 5 years is 1.5 degrees above the pre-industrial levels, it will be temporary. So a natural variability will mean the following few years may be slightly cooler, and it could be another decade or two or more before the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit is crossed permanently. So right now, it's a very transient stage where we are reaching that point where we just go a little bit over the line and then we come back. So we just cross 1.5 degrees Celsius and then we come back again. But it's not really, right now, it's not really a permanent thing. So just because, like I said, levels will increase according to the amount of carbon dioxide emitted in the air. So it's very, very it depends on, it's very variable. There's a lot of variability involved in this. So the Paris Agreement established the goal of keeping the increase in the global average temperature to no more than 2 degrees Celsius and trying not to surpass 1.5 degrees Celsius. And that's understood to mean over a long period rather than a single year. So according to Dr. Joey Rogels, the director of research at the Grantham Institute, Imperial College of London, the 1.5 degrees in the Met Office announcements should not be confused with the 1.5 degrees limit in the Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement targets to global warming. That is the temperature increase of our planet once we smooth out year-to-year variations. So what this essentially means in layman terms is that this basically sets, the Paris Agreement is about the permanent increase of the temperature across the world. And this is what, when we talk about this, we talk about, this is the average temperature now. This is the temperature that is fixed. This is how it is permanently. It's not going to be changing. This is no surge in increase of temperatures. There's no sudden spike of the temperature rising. So this is what they're trying to differentiate when it comes to the limit the Paris Agreement has set in line. So this as a single year hitting 1.5 degree, therefore doesn't mean really much, and it doesn't really break the limits of the Paris agreements. And none of that is breached, but it is still bad news. So it tells us once again that climate action today is completely insufficient, and emissions need to be reduced urgently to zero to halt the global warming. So a landmark report by the UN Climate Panel in 2018 highlighted how the impacts of climate change are far more severe when the increase is greater than 1.5 degrees Celsius. So at the moment, projections suggest that even with the recent pledges to cut emissions of greenhouse gases, the world is on a course to heat up by up to 3 degrees Celsius. So that is very, very harmful. And if you're wondering how bad it is, it does get really, really bad. So the WMO's Secretary General, Professor Petteri Talas, said the results of the new research were more than mere statistics. And this study actually shows with a high level of scientific skill that we are getting measurably and inexorably closer to the lower targets of the Paris Agreement on climate change. So we're getting there. That's what they're trying to say, is we are coming to that point where it's going to be permanent and we cannot reverse this. It's going to be irreversible. And that is going to be a very big problem, because if we don't cut, a year of getting these increased temperature is okay. When you check the average across the next couple of years, 10 years, straight up for 5, 6 years, 10 years, this is the temperature. This is going to be a problem. So just a year of it is increasing. It doesn't break the limits. It doesn't breach the Paris Agreement, but it still is, going to be giving a rise to concern. This is something that is very concerning also. So like I said, the study is, they're doing, a lot of scientists are involved in all this. And right now they say that another wake-up call, the world needs to fast-track commitments to slash the greenhouse gas emissions and achieve this carbon neutrality. Professor Edwin Hawkins, a climate scientist at the University of Reading, told that if the new forecast is proved right, it does not mean that we've exceeded the Paris Agreement limit. And he points out that 2 individual months in 2016 saw a rise of 1.5 degrees Celsius. So this is also, that they were discussing. And as the climate warms, we'll get more months above 1.5 degrees than a sequence of them. Then a whole year on average above 1.5, and then 2-3 years, and then virtually every single year. This is what he's talking about, progression. This is how we progress to the temperature rise in the world. It doesn't take a day or a month or a year. It takes the next couple of years. It begins with a week, with a day, then a month, then a couple of months, then a year, and then 2-3 years, and then 5 years, and then a decade. This is how it works, and this is what they're trying to do, and this is what Professor Hawkins is trying to address and voice out upon. And he also stressed, a lot of these things, that the 1.5 is not a magic number that we've got to avoid. Rather, it's not a sudden cliff edge. It's more like a slope that we are already on right now. This is a path that we are going in. And this is a road that there is going to be, it's a slope in the road that it's there. It's unavoidable. It's going to happen, but we got to make sure that we reduce our speed getting there. That's what he's trying to address. This is the best way for me to put it in, in that analogy right there. And with that, consideration, he is talking about all of these things. He's saying we've got to avoid this, and before it gets even worse and worse, we don't want this, the aftermath become even worse. And they've set a line in the sand to try to limit the temperature rise, but we clearly need to recognize that we are seeing the effects of climate change already in the UK and around the world, and those effects will continue to become more severe. It will affect us as well. And the report comes in approach to the COP26 summit on climate change, due to be held in Glasgow in November. So this summit aims to raise the ambitions amongst world leaders on tackling the climate crisis. So this is, what right now, the COP26, this is the things that they want to address, as they go along. Hopefully this is something that they can, they want to mitigate this. They want to make sure that we decrease the risks, minimize the risks, and make sure that, although even if the temperature is going to rise, we're not going to get to the point where it's going to be 1.5 degrees Celsius throughout. We're trying to avoid this as much as possible, and this is just something that we are doing. Hopefully, we can find a way to do it. Let's see how it goes. Hopefully, this is something that the government can find a permanent fix rather than a short-term fix. And with that, we are going to be taking a real quick break. And looking at your time right now, it is 5:05. Good evening. welcome back to the show. This is me and Nick keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right, we're talking about all things related in the UK and what is going on, the situation, and all of that stuff. And yeah, taking a look at stuff happening across the world. Rather, I saw a very interesting thing going on, and how the U.S. military UFO report does not confirm or rule out any kind of alien activity. And this is something of interest to me because, when I look at this, I mean, how many times as a kid you'd wonder what they were hiding in Area 51? This is, the kind of thing that you want to know about. And yeah, when seeing something like that, it kind of did pique my interest. And yeah, with all of that regards, the U.S. government, though, they've been saying that there's a sighting of unidentified flying objects, found no evidence of any sort of alien activity, but it does not rule out, officials have told U.S. media. So they say just because that right now there's no evidence of these alien, we've seen these sightings rather of these UFOs. It doesn't mean that there is no aliens in the world. So yeah, the review of 120 incidents is expected to conclude that U.S. technology was not involved in most of these cases. And yeah, with that regards though, but beyond that, the report makes no definitive assessments about what the objects might be. And a declassified version of the report is due to be handed down to lawmakers in June. So yeah, this is just something of interest, especially with these big conspiracy theorists, rather. They are talking about all with regards to all this and aliens and all of that jazz. It makes me wonder at this day and time, this day and year, there's been stories of the chupacabra and all of that, and aliens and all of these things, going on. And it's kind of alarming that people really buy into this whole thing. I mean, even with this situation going on with the pandemic, I mean, can you really believe in aliens? This is my kind of question. I mean, wow, this is just something that is going on. I mean, if the aliens did come, why did they not make contact with any of our officials? That's the other thing. And yeah, the reports, though, is that the product of the military task force established last year to investigate decades of unexplained aerial sightings in the U.S. airspace. I mean, that is also kind of fishy. The U.S. doesn't even know what's in their airspace for a lot of the past 10, 20 years. I mean, come on, don't be lying. There is something going on. We don't really know what. And most probably it could be a flight that they're testing or something, stealth flights. It could be anything. And the Department of Defense, or the DoD, said it wanted to improve its understanding of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, also known as unidentified flying objects, and determine whether they pose a threat to national security. And yeah, the report was mandated as part of a pandemic relief package signed by former U.S. President Donald Trump last year. And its release has captured the imagination of the public in the U.S., where UFO sightings have been long the source of intrigue and alien conspiracy theories. And speculation about the contents of the report has been building among UFO enthusiasts ahead of its slated release to Congress on the 25th of June. And I'm telling you, right now, we are at this time and age where, we have more pressing matters going on, and people are wondering if there is an alien sighting in the sky. And they want to know, is this an alien sighting in the sky? Have we been right all these years? Have we been right all along? And details of the study were first reported on a Thursday they've been reported by a lot of these media outlets. So these media outlets said that they spoke with a bunch of government officials about the findings of these highly anticipated reports. And the officials said that of the 120 plus incidents documented over the past 2 decades, the majority were reported by U.S. Navy personnel, while some involved foreign militaries. And they say, okay, this is how it actually happened. And and with officials speaking, especially with the media sources, they said that with 3 sources, who said that the report does not rule out extraterrestrial activity as a possible explanation in some of these cases. So in some of these cases, they didn't rule out the possibility of an alien, of these alien spacecraft. So this is just all something of regard, it just makes me wonder, are there actually aliens going on? I mean, it's an interesting topic to really be concerned about. When we're trying to keep it real all the time, sometimes you need to see some of these hilarious things that you see on the internet, and actual media starts actually quoting these things. It's just crazy. And citing intelligence officials, newspapers have said that the experimental technologies of rival powers such as China or Russia could account for at least some of the aerial phenomena. So these are just, some of these intelligent officials, they're talking about this. This is some of the things that they've come up with. And they say this is a possibility of what is actually going on. There's no such thing as these unidentified flying objects or aliens, but rather this is something to do maybe with other countries trying to, invade the United States. And it makes you wonder. I mean, there is an answer. I mean, they always have an answer for these kind of things. So some sightings were discussed in recent reports, that renewed interests in the UFO last month. So with regards to all of this, recently a U.S. Navy pilot said they'd seen inexplainable aircrafts that flew faster and were more maneuverable than anything seen in the past. So one retired pilot, Ryan Graves, said his first flight jet squadron began seeing UFO hovering over restricted airspace off the coast of Virginia back in 2014. And he said the objects had no visible exhaust fumes and were traveling at speeds that appeared to defy the limits of known technology. And Mr. Graves said the pilots training off the Atlantic coast had similar sightings every day for at least a couple of years. So they say they've seen these kind of things for so many years now, and they were not quite sure what to take up on this. So it's just crazy, The question is, the bottom line is, people want to know, are there actually aliens in airspace? And for some reason, my biggest question, though, is how come these aliens are only spotted in the United States? So you're telling me this is some kind of Hollywood movie where people actually consider the fact that, if there's going to be an invasion, it's going to be the United States. Wow. Like in every movie, in every single movie, it's always the United States getting something, and the rest of the world is we're all good. But then, when you come back to the United States, it's always the United States or the White House. Like in that movie Independent, where Will Smith was acting, that was just one of those things that, pops into your head. And there's, a lot of these movies involved. And there's that Tom Cruise movie as well, The Day After Tomorrow, and the War of the Worlds. It was all about the U.S. For some reason, for some inexplicable reason, the U.S. gets to see these flying objects and we don't. That's my kind of question. I mean, what even? So these are just very, 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 very things that are very intriguing for me when you come down to consider these things that are actually, there are real life things going on, and then people still wonder, are there actually aliens? I mean, it's always good to know whether there is life beyond our country, our world rather. But you also got to remember, the real things and the things that is going on. And we got to be alert to what is happening, especially right now, with the infections and levels rising in the UK. And with that talk, though, getting back to the real things, that is happening. The COVID infections rise by 2/3 in the United Kingdom. This is what the ONS has said. The officially said that this is what is going on. The cases are rising. So the number of people infected with coronavirus in the UK has risen by as much as 2/3. So the Office for National Statistics have said this, and they estimate that around 100,000 people tested positive in the week to 29th of May, or 1 in 660 people, up to 60,000 the previous week. So a growing proportion looked like they were in the Delta variant, first detected in India. This is what the ONS said, and the infections were mostly rising, mostly steeply in England and in Wales. So further 6,278 cases confirmed in the UK were announced by the government, and they've discussed about this, and they said, okay, this is the number of cases that we found so far, and by Friday, today, 954 people were in the hospital with COVID, and 11 deaths recorded. So this this essentially equals to a large increase in cases from a low base, but hospital admissions and deaths are down slightly compared to last week. So this is increased testing from the so-called Indian variant or the Delta variant. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you call it now. It's here, and it's not something that is going away as of yet. So it's been named, like I said, by the World Health Organization in hotspots may mean that the spike looks larger than it really is. So the ONS data, which is not skewed by how many people come forward for tests, shows actually a genuine rise. And with the proportion of people in England and Wales testing positive almost doubling in a week. So the picture in Scotland and Northern Ireland is less clear, although Scotland has been significant, as they've seen a lot of these significant growth in infections. There's been a rise in recent weeks. And at the end of May, the number of people infected was 1 in 640 in England, compared to 1 in 1,120 the previous week. So 1 in 1,050 in Wales, compared to 1 in 3,850 in Wales. So yeah, that's just some of the figures. And one in 800 in Northern Ireland compared to 1 in 820, and 1 in 680 in Scotland compared to 1 in 630. So yeah, the Indian variant right now it's across the UK is the most dominant variant. I feel like it is going up to that, and the ONS does not conduct these genetic testings on sample it uses to track the virus. It found a growing proportion looked like they were the Delta variant. So the test used to work out if someone has coronavirus looks at the three of the virus's genes, one of which cannot be detected in the Kent and now named the Alpha variant. So, however, a rising number of the ONS samples did positive tests for that gene, so suggesting it's more likely the Delta variant, but it also could be the Beta variant or the Gamma variants, which is the South African variant and the Brazilian variant, respectively. And yeah, this all chimes in with the genetic testing. It's all got to do with genomic sequencing. Right now, the UK, like I said, is the forefront when it comes and involves in this. And yeah, they say right now the Indian variant must be the dominating variant right now in the UK, and it's accounted for 79 of cases confirmed by laboratory analysis in the last week. So yeah, the virus's reproduction, or our number, an estimate of how many extra infection coronavirus cases will lead to, is between 1 to 12. So in England, which means for every 10 people infected, another 10 or 12 will catch the virus. So this is just the number of cases right now plaguing the country. I mean, it's terrible to see the situation rising. Hopefully, this is something that will get by, and we might even find another vaccine for this. And yeah, hopefully, let's see what it goes to. I mean, do you want to get another? I mean, would we have to cocktail our vaccines? Is my question. I mean, the vaccines that we take now, is it going to be ineffective when it comes to the Delta variant? I mean, I don't really know. We don't really know the answers. The government doesn't even know the answers yet to that. So all we got to do is just wait and watch to see how it goes. And with that, we're going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to Relax Radio with me, Nick, giving you guys company. And yeah, we're talking about all things, happening right now in the UK. And yeah, there's a lot of these things going on. And in case you guys are wondering who this is, my name is Nick, and I'm keeping you guys company on the final stretch of Real Talk with me here, keeping you guys company. And in case if you have any dedications or shout out, you can always feel free to hit me up on those numbers. It is 07852473473. That's right. Those are the magical numbers. And yeah, these are just, some of the things that is going on. So there's been no new cases of COVID in Scotland, and the numbers have been rising since February. So Scotland has recorded its highest number of new COVID cases since February, a day before restriction case eases across much of the country. So a total of 992 people tested positive for the virus on Thursday, the highest daily figure since the 17th of February. That's right, these issues, with the going on, the cases right now. If you look at Glasgow, the numbers have been rising. It's mostly got to do with the Indian variant, which is the Delta variant right now. They're calling it the Delta variant. So yeah, these are just, some of the things that is plaguing the country. And total First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said the number of cases had more than tripled in the past month. And she said it showed that the country was at a critical juncture in the pandemic. However, she stressed that the success of the vaccine program meant the country could continue to look forward to living with fewer restrictions over the summer. And she said the link between the numbers of cases and the numbers of people being hospitalized and dying because of the virus was not as strong as it had been in the past, but has not disappeared completely. And Ms. Sturgeon went on to say that we are at a very critical juncture right now, and what we still very much hope and believe is the transition to a less restrictive way of dealing with COVID. But the position we are in now on the transition is a very, very fragile one. Right now, this is a very, very big concern, and we're at the tipping point in the scale where we have to watch out what we do, because what our actions will, what she essentially implies is that, it's going to be a very dangerous thing if we don't manage this right now. This is a very important thing. And she went on to say that, many areas in the north and south of mainland Scotland will move from level 2 to level 1 of the country's 5-tier system from midnight on Friday. So yeah, that's what happened. And Glasgow will move from level 3 to level 2, allowing people to meet in each other's homes again and drink alcohol inside pubs and restaurants. And island communities, including Orkney, Shetland, and the Western Isles, will move to the lowest level 0 restrictions. So these are some of the places that will be going through all these things. And yeah, with that regard, though, Like I said, Glasgow and all these other places are going to be moving down a notch. But it was announced earlier this week that 13 council areas with a combined population of 2.3 million people in the central belt of the country, including Edinburgh, would stay in level 2 rather than moving down to level 1 as had been planned. So the whole country is currently due to move to level 0 on June the 28th, with Miss Sturgeon saying that she is still very optimistic about that target, despite doubts being expressed about whether it will happen. So Scottish Conservatives leader Douglas Ross, who is voluntarily self-isolating despite testing negative for the virus, called for greater clarity from the Scottish government on how areas can move out of level 2, saying that if we don't need to shut down entire cities if we see a spike in cases. So essentially what they're saying is just because there's a rising number of cases doesn't mean we should stop moving as a country. We should stop functioning as a country. And and he said more targeted measures such as increased testing and vaccination should be put in place when local outbreaks are detected. So these are just some of the ways and some of the methods that he has decided that we are supposed to do on as we would think it is. And with that regard, like I said, it's not as easy as you think it would be to be doing this. So there are other areas also in Scotland right now facing this big so-called issue. And the country's national clinic director has warned that Scotland is now in the early stages of a third wave of the virus, with about 70% of new cases thought to be the so-called Delta variant that was first detected in India. So Ms. Sturgeon said that this variant appeared to be quite significantly more transmissible even than the Kent variant that was dominant earlier in the year. So, they're saying that this variant right now, the Delta variant, is very, very transmissible. And it's a big problem because if it's spreading as fast as it is right now, it is a danger to all of us because we want to reduce this and we want to make sure the country is up and running. But to do that, we should have vaccines and this whole program. This is a whole situation that they want to avoid and they want to prevent from happening. So you can see the dilemma the government is having right now. They want people safe and they want everyone indoors and they want to make sure everything is safe and runs smoothly. But at the same time, a hitch like this happens and they have to figure out different ways and different alternatives to do and different measures that will have to be taken. So Ms. Sturgeon said that this is right now that this variant appeared to be the most significant right now, and it's very transmissible compared to the Kent variant. It's the Alpha variant that we had, and that was more dominant. That was earlier this year. So this number of cases, like I said, back in January, we had at least 44,000 to 40,000 people in the hospitals because of this. And this is just a rising number of cases. It just goes to show that the Delta variant right now is coming to that point. And early data suggests that it may increase the risk of hospitalization. So a lot of this data, even the ONS is saying that the rising number of cases is unavoidable, it's inevitable. You can see that there is a rising number of cases, and that is a problem. And they're trying to find different ways to outmaneuver this whole situation, but we don't really know what they're doing. And she stressed, Nicola Sturgeon also stressed that there was also strong indications that vaccines were weakening the link between the rising cases and the number of people being hospitalized, meaning intensive care, treatment, and dying. So what she's trying to say, and she's trying to address, and she's trying to point out and emphasize to a lot of the people is that the virus is weakening the link. It's not completely cut it off, but it sure is doing something that is weakening the link and making sure the number of cases in the country is reducing to the point where there's not that many cases anymore, and that number of deaths in the country is going to drop low. And she warned that the link had not been broken completely. And with hospital cases rising to more than 100 in the past week and a small upward tick in the number of patients in intensive care in recent days, although the figure remains very, very low, with only 8 people currently being treated in ICU units across the country. So the death of a further 2 people who have been tested positive for the virus in the past 28 days have also been recorded, and new cases of the virus were detected in every council area back in Thursday. So the First Minister is saying that all this, these figures justify the decisions that they've made. They've made these kind of decisions, and they're making sure that people stick to this because it's important right now. We want to avoid any kind of increase in number of cases, and because of that, she did bring down Glasgow from level 3 to level 2. But at the same time, there are places that, like the city of Edinburgh, they've left it at a level 2 because right now the situation, the rising concern, there's been rising concern, of this variant, And if we get back to level one, it's going to be even more problematic, because at the end of the day, what is going to happen is that we're going to be spreading this, and this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a hitch in the road, and we want to avoid this as much as possible. So yeah, let's see. What Nicola Sturgeon is saying, all these things, and she's stressing that the problem is so and so, and she added that there is significant proportion of the country that has not yet had both doses of the vaccine. And she does say that, okay, she's pinpointing the problems and saying that there's been people actually who've not had both doses of vaccine as of yet. As of yet, they have had the vaccine, but it's not complete. So this is why the protection is not 100%. And she went on to say, we need to exercise continued care, and that is why the decisions I set up on Tuesday about the level of protection that we will apply from tomorrow to different parts of the country were so cautious. And it just shows that why she's being very cautious right now, why she's trying to take care, and why she is trying to resolve this whole thing. I mean, it just goes to show she's trying to be responsible. She's trying to reduce the number of cases in the country and prevent the number of cases rising. And to do that, this is what she has to do. These are the necessary steps and precautions that she has to take in order to prevent another outbreak. This is just, all these things. I mean, we have to be understanding. We have to be reasonable that, it's not as easy, and it's not either gray, or it's not either black or white. It's actually in between the grays. She has to make a wise choice, and this is the wisest choice that she can do at this current point in time. So, she says that, yeah, I understand that, that we're being cautious. And I know that it is frustrating, but at this particular moment, it is necessary, in my judgment, to be cautious while we continue to vaccinate more and more people. And yeah, like I said, the number of cases, a total of 3,326,005 people have had at least one dose of the vaccine in Scotland, of whom 2,170,570 have been given a second dose. So you can see there's almost a million difference right there of the number of people who've had their vaccines and who've had their two doses of either vaccine, whether it could be Pfizer, whether it could be AstraZeneca or Moderna vaccine, or even the Janssen vaccine, the new Janssen vaccine. Well, these are just the number of figures. It shows that only 3 million have had their first dose, and from that 3, only 2 million have had their second dose. So this is something that, we need to ponder on. We have to understand it's not as easy as we'd like to think, and it's not something that, you can just prevent altogether. So yeah, we got to make sure, we stick together when we make sure that we are, because like I said, like I always say, we are accountable for the things that we do. We are accountable for a lot of the things that we do. And to do that, we have to prevent other outbreaks. To prevent that, we have to follow the guidelines that is set by the government. We have to follow all these rules and these implementations that they've done. We have to implement all these things, and we have to make sure that we don't cause and contribute to the rise in cases, because right now they are looking for different ways to go. And what we have to understand is the coronavirus is here to stay. So there's no other way. But a lot of people have been criticizing the government and saying, that this is just something that we'll have to live with. And it's understandable, but I understand the frustration. People are sick and tired of staying at home, but we have to understand also that, our safety is a priority, because we have to make it a priority, because we have to protect the people that we love and that we care about. And to do that, we have to follow through with these, and we have to have these guidelines. We have to have these lockdowns. It's not something that even we are not happy about it, but we got to understand that the situation, when it calls for it, we have to follow through. And this is how the best way we can follow through. And with that, we're going to take a real quick break, and we're going to be right back after this for the final stretch of the show. And taking a look at your timer now, it is 5:48. Good evening. welcome back to the show, to the final stretch of the show, rather. And this is Real Talk with me, Nick, talking about all the real things that is going on in the UK and the rest of the world, rather. We're trying to keep it 100% real. And yeah, like I said, the number of cases in the country is getting, out of hand. And I can see that, a lot of these businesses and a lot of these, the government right now is doing their best to try to limit the number of cases in the country, but the way it is going out, it does seem unavoidable, and this is something that that is going on. And yeah, on other news as well, right now, health staff has also been they've been talking about all these things, and they've been in a plea for better protection is what they're asking. So more than 20 healthcare organizations, including those representing nurses, doctors, surgeons, and therapists, are calling for stricter UK guidelines to be introduced on face masks and other protective equipment and other PPEs. So in a virtual meeting with officials, they say these existing laws must leave them vulnerable to infections through the air, especially by the new COVID variant. So yeah, the unprecedented appeal will see them, argue that other countries such as the United States protect their healthcare workers with higher grade equipment. And it's thought to be the very first time healthcare and organizations have united on a single issue on this way, a sign of desperation. Many feel about the need for staff to be kept safe. So the delegation will include representatives of the British Medical Associations, or the BMA, the Royal College of Nursing, and many other professional organizations and unions. So they're all going to be involved in all of these things. And with regards to all this, it's understandable what is going on. There's a number of cases rising, and healthcare professionals are also very concerned with that regard. And they say, on the government side will be at least 20 of the most senior officials from all the 4 UK nations, many involved in setting the guidelines on personal protective equipment. And what do healthcare and these, healthcare workers and the health people want? Essentially, what is it that they're asking for? What are they requiring? Well, with an estimated 1,000 health and care workers killed by COVID in the UK, the plea is for the risks of airborne transmission to be recognized in hospitals and other care settings. So they want, the government to realize that this is not a small thing. This is a pretty big deal, and we have to do our best to try and avoid the number of cases and the number of rising cases in the country. And to do that, first of all, the best way to do it is to identify that there is a problem, that there is this many number of cases, and we have to find a way to fight this. And yet, for that, the best way, is to recognize that we need even more better equipment. We need to be more geared to all of this, and to protect us and to protect our safety in the country. So this is just, some of the rising concerns that a lot of these people have, a lot of these healthcare professionals have, and this is something that they want to address, as it goes by. It looks like the situation, like I said, is not going to be getting any better, and they know that, and they are concerned about that, and they want the government to address this. And the best way for them to address this is to talk about these issues, to decide, okay, this is what we're going to do. And these officials as well, a lot of these big officials as well, healthcare professionals, they also know the situation, and they understand it, and they can sympathize with the plea, because this is not something that a lot of people are usually complaining about, because this is something to do with their lives, and we need to safeguard them as much as possible. So people are we don't want people to fall into this problem and into a situation where we could have avoided it. This is just like the whole situation with this green passports. In my opinion, right now, we don't really need this right now. We shouldn't be even allowing and thinking about making sure that people can travel abroad, because we have to understand right now, in my opinion, what I think is we got to keep the country safe. To do that, we got to make sure that we close our borders, at least for the meantime, before the whole situation dies out. I mean, this is just, some of those things that you need to do in order to, protect and, uphold the country, because the country right now, we are in a dire state where a lot of these problems are occurring, and to prevent, a possible big outbreak, we got to do the things that we need to do, and this is just some of them. And yeah, with the healthcare, organizations, they're talking about this, and the healthcare workers, what they want is they want the government to realize that this is not a small issue. This is something that is actually going on, and that means all of the staff caring for COVID patients being issued with masks specifically designed to guard against infectious aerosols. So what aerosols essentially mean is masks, that can prevent, and not these surgical masks, but rather these proper N95 kind of masks, where the airborne virus, it will not be airborne, it will not travel in air droplets, and it'll prevent people, and especially these workers, from getting infected. And the other thing is, the U.S. government is also among those that many require health workers to wear what are called these N95 respirators, and they're judged to be even more effective than standard issued surgical masks mandated in the UK. So they went on to say, Dr. Barry Jones, a leading figure in the campaign, who will be presenting evidence at the meeting, said it is the inconsistency that is getting beyond a joke. And he said he and his colleagues in the Nutritional Care Association, the BPAN, the first raised their concerns with the Public Health England as far back as April of last year. So this is they're saying, okay, look, we've addressed our issues, we've addressed the stuff that that needs to be addressing, and this is it's a farce. What the government is doing is a farce, and they're not taking this into consideration. They're not taking it seriously, and this is going to be a problem, and we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that people are protected. We want to make sure that nobody gets into a situation which could have been avoided. So these are just some of the things that they will be addressing as time goes by. Hopefully that is something that they can do in the near possible foreseeable future, and the government will pay heed and make sure that these surgical, like I said, surgical masks are effective, but not up to a certain point in comparison to these N95 masks. These N95 masks are actually way more efficient in preventing, the air from traveling, from these viruses from traveling in the airspace. So this is something that, that they have to prevent. And because this is just one of the things that we need right now. And hopefully they will consider this, and the government will address this as soon as practical. But hey, with that being said, though, it is about that time of the day for me to head on out of here. And, it's a wrap on the show. And don't worry, though, you can catch me again on Monday, only here on Real Talk, all the way from 3 to 6. Make sure you guys keep it locked. And with that, I'll catch you again on Monday. My name is Nick, and I'm out of here. Peace.